to our online viewers as well as our guests in the room. So, Nicholas Morganopoulos will be introducing our first presenter.
Hello, my name is Nick Morganopoulos, and I'm an instructor at FSI. I wanted to introduce Amy Ramirez, my student who's examining the question if an aquacizer is an efficient form of rehabilitation for cancer patients.
Okay, so my name is Amy Ramirez, and for the past 6 weeks, I've been working at the Rehabilitation Institute. And the question that we asked ourselves in my study was, is aquacizer underwater treadmill training an appropriate form for cancer rehabilitation? So, what is the aquacizer? Here's a short video just showing what it is. It's hard to explain it in this video. Okay, so the purpose of my study was a threefold study. The first was to design the first entirely water-based protocol. The second was to take that protocol that was designed and implement it into traditional on-land treadmill versus aquacizer treadmill. The third one was to assess the physiological and technological effect of an entirely water-based exercise intervention on food exercises. So the method. When designing a protocol, we decided to use 6 subjects, 4 female and 2 male, and we were evaluating cardiovascular training, upper body exercises, and lower body exercises. So the cardiovascular training. This was done for 42 minutes and at intervals of 40 and 50% heart rate reserve. And how we got our heart rate reserve was 220 minus the age of the subject, and that gave us our maximum heart rate. We then took our maximum heart rate and subtracted the resting heart rate and the heart rate reserve. We then multiplied that by 0.4 and 0.6 to get our 40 and 50%, and we added back the resting heart rate, and that gave us our training heart rate for the day. So when doing the lower body exercises, we found that water levels were the most important thing in our study, just because some exercises work really well with the water high, others work with the water low. So we ended up coming up with these 2 levels that work perfect for us. There's that water at inside of the subject, and with the aquacizer built to the chest of each individual subject. So the calf raises and the lunges were done with the water at the inside of the subject. With the aquacizer built to the chest, the leg abductions and adductions are done. And that's this picture up here, and this is just the subject being done back and forth. The glute kickback. These were also done with the aquacizer built to the chest of the subject. Here you can see this is a band, and this lady is doing them on land. We did do ours in the water, but we simulated the band with the resistance of the water. So upper body exercises. With the water at mid-side, again, the upright row, which is this picture up here, was done at a squat in the water with the free weight. The bicep curls were difficult for us to get with the water close to the chest of the subject just because it wasn't difficult for them to do. The water made it easier for them to do, actually. And with the oxidizer filled to the chest. They did the chest press, and they did that with waterways at a 90-degree angle, pushing down on the waterways and pulling back up. The shoulder press, the picture here shows the shoulder press. They did this again at a squat inside the water. The triceps were done with the water filled to the chest of the subject, but these were done in a bicep curl motion underwater. And that sounds a little strange, but instead of working the bicep muscles underwater, it did work the triceps instead. So when comparing the two, again, we use the oxidizer and the traditional all-man treadmill. The physiological and psychological effects that were looked at were cardiorespiratory fatigue, muscular strength to weight ratio, and upper and lower body strength to weight ratio. The psychological that we pre and post evaluations that we took were depression, fatigue, and quality of life. So as you can see here, this is our final protocol. And there's a warm-up of 5 minutes to the intervals of 40 and 50. The intervals of 40 were done for 3 minutes. The intervals of 50 were done for 1 minute, continuing down until the cool down for 5 minutes. The heart rate and the RPE were taken here. That gave us our full 42 minutes. The resistance, lower body calf raises and lunges, as you can see here, were done for 2 sets at 15 repetitions each. The leg abduction, adduction, and glute kicks were done again for 2 sets, but these were done for 30 seconds each. And the reason that these were done for 30 seconds each is because we weren't able to get the intensity amount that we wanted when we did them with the traditional repetition. And with upper body resistance, all exercises were done for 3 sets at 15 repetitions seconds working. Okay, the oxidizer versus traditional on-land exercises. So we found that there was no significant difference between the oxidizer and the traditional on-land treadmill. We used a low-cost and sine-rank t-test as a non-parametric equivalent to a paired t-test. And as you can see on observation, it may look like the 50% oxidizer heart rate reserve was more difficult than the on-land treadmill at 50% heart rate reserve, but again, there was no significant difference. So continue, the oxidizer was preferred over the treadmill by all subjects because it felt lighter on the joints. It was perceived to be easier, but again, there was no significant difference. It was more fun, and it gave some subjects the opportunity to fix their running and gait form in the water. And on the traditional on-land treadmill, they weren't able to do that because they didn't have the time to do it. And when you're in the oxidizer, it kind of does feel like you're walking on the moon. And I know we don't all feel what that feels like, but it was like it gave you the time to fix your form. So here are the charts of the 2 cancer survivors, and there was significant improvements in cardiorespiratory via 2 weeks. So subject 1 did improve quite a bit, as did subject 2. There were no improvements observed in upper body muscular strength over the 5-week intervention. Subject 1 actually decreased after, where subject 2 stayed the same. The lower body muscular strength improvements were observed in one subject, but not the other. The other inmate low might actually decreased a bit. And this is because subject 2 was male and he was a lot heavier than subject 1 who was female. And subject 2 was able to get into the flight phase, which is running. And this just means they had one leg set at a time when they were getting their running form. And subject 1 was not able to do that, so since subject 2 was a heavier set and was able to get into the flight phase, it therefore gave them the muscular strength of the body. So the physiological effects on the cancer survivors, or the psychological effects. There was no quantitative information has been evaluated yet, but we hope we could do that in the future. The qualitative data shows mental improvement, and this is because when you're as an oxidizer or in the water in general, it reduces stress, anxiety, and it increases your happiness. So, and that was, it did this for all the subjects, not just the two cancer survivors. So, what are the positive effects of the oxidizer? Some cancer survivors are not able to get to the 60% heart reserve on land. And you may say, well, they can use the bike. Well, they can use the bike, but for some of them, they did have certain surgeries that did not allow them to sit because it was painful or uncomfortable for them. And they just weren't able to get the proper reservoir because of the damage on the traditional on-land treadmill. So the oxidizer works great for them. Due to the buoyancy of water, it decreased the risk of injury as well. And as you guys saw in the oxidizer, it was enclosed as to where on-land treadmill is not enclosed. So there is that risk of injury if they do fall over. It increases the work of breathing by 15% because of the pressure in the water. It pushes on your lower body and pushes the blood up, and it's pumping more blood, therefore more oxygen. It reduces the vital capacity by 39% due to the hydrostatic pressure counteracting, and this just means that you are pumping more blood and you're releasing more oxygen. So back to our question, is the oxidizer underwater treadmill an appropriate form of cancer rehabilitation? Well, we tell ourselves yes, but only if. And this means that that traditional on-land exercises should be implemented into the oxidizer training. And this is like in a 5-day workout, 2 to 3 days should be oxidizer training, and 1 day should be devoted to strict training. So as we saw in the cancer survivors, it worked great and improved both of their cardiorespiratory VO2P, and they were able to get there, but it didn't improve their muscular strength as great. So with this, if you implement both, then you get the best of both worlds. So I would just like to thank my mentors, Jessica Brown. It was great working with her. Andrew Smith, I did mess with him a few and tell him he wasn't a mentor, but he was. He was great. He was a really great mentor. Also, Dr. Schneider, the director of RI. Lori Paul, the SSI coordinator. Nick Orianopolis, my advisor, who did look over a few sections of my paper. The Rocky Mountain Cancer Rehabilitation Institute. It's great being there, and everybody that does work there knows that it's a great environment, and everybody just loves to be there and loves their job, so it was fun to be there. The Frontiers of Science Institute, without them, there wouldn't even be these kind of opportunities, so thank you to them. My sponsors, most importantly, the 1979 alumni Excel Energy Foundation. The 1979 alumni sponsored my being here at SSI, and I would like to thank them. Excel Energy funded my research, and without them, I wouldn't have been able to do this amazing study. So I would also like to thank my parents, Raul and Delia. They supported me through this whole thing, and it was difficult being here away from home, but they did call me every day to see how I was doing. And lastly, I would like to thank everybody who participated in my study, because although it was a short study and it was a bit difficult, they all did it, and they all did it with a smile on their face. Thank you. So now I'll answer any questions. Chelsea?
Is there any other applications of the oxidizers besides cancer rehabilitation?
Her question was, is there other applications of the aquacizer besides cancer rehabilitation. So, I mean, yeah, there could be, it's not just cancer rehabilitation, people that do have difficulties on other forms of exercises that do want to get that workout. So kids definitely do it as an aquacizer. Again, our study was done on the healthy population, and they improved. So if it works for the healthy, then it should work for other ones as well. Paul?
How long have the aquacizer been around? Is it like a good idea, or is it like not so while?
It's been around about 10 years. And his question, I'm sorry, was how long has the aquacizer been around? It's been around 10 years, but again, no studies have really been done on it. So it's been around also for animals. So animals do use it, but no studies on humans in the aquacizer have been done. Akshay?
Do you know what affects the temperature of the water?
Akshay's question was, do you know what affects the temperature of the water? There's a filtering system in the aquacizer, so you do filter it, and it does change the temperatures of the water. Gavin?
Would you say that aquacizer exercise therapy is appropriate for all patients, or are there some patients where other exercises would be better?
Gavin's question was, if aquacizer exercises are appropriate for all patients, or if there's some that aquacizer or other forms are more appropriate? Okay, so the answer to that is, the aquacizer may not be appropriate for all, just because some surgeries and some patients may limit them from being inside the aquacizer. It does have like the chlorine in it, so we don't want them to like get it in their cuts or their surgeries and stuff like that. So it is a great form if you are able to get into it. Also, it's a small space, as you can see, so if larger individuals needed to get into it, it would be difficult. Odysseus?
So that you used 6 participants in your study, but only tested the psychological effects on 2. How did you determine that?
So we decided, his question was, we did the study on 6 apparently healthy, but only the psychological on the 2 cancer survivors. And this is because the apparently healthy know how it's supposed to feel, as to opposed where some cancer survivors don't really know how some of the exercises should feel. So when we do put the apparently healthy population in, they are able to give us feedback, therefore us being able to put that feedback that we get and implementing it to our protocol for the cancer population. And we did the psychological and physiological effect on the 2 cancer survivors because we wanted to see that in them as opposed to the apparently healthy population when we know they could just tell us how they feel, like in the aquacizer, and sometimes the cancer recovery patients don't really share that out loud. Lori?
This question comes from an online viewer, Kevin here. It is not to speak there. What improvements would you like to make to the aquacizer?
So Kevin Lear's question was, what improvements would I like to make to the aquacizer? Maybe make it bigger. In general, the aquacizer is smaller, so if it was more wide, then larger patients would be able to get into it, and it would work better. Also, just in general with my study, if we were to have a bigger group and my subjects were apparently healthy, and they were very healthy. They worked at the Rocky Mountain Cancer Rehabilitation Institute, so they worked out every day, and that was a little difficult to get into the Harvard Reserve sometimes. So if I had a larger population of variants of apparently healthy subjects, then it would work better, and also just having a larger aquacizer in general. Any more questions? No? Okay, thank you.